Alright, welcome to my patch 8.14 rundown. At the beginning of all my patch notes, typically I like to talk about the state of the game and what I think needs to be changed. I think at the moment, we're finally at the point where we're starting to stabilize the current, I would say, game. After all the bot lane changes, the crushing, I would say, jungle changes, they kind of stacked on top of each other to make a really, really volatile game. And 4 weeks into the second split of the season, we're finally getting to the point where stuff is starting to stabilize. There's still a lot of problems. Mainly, I think that there's still problems with stuff like funneling. Like, I would just want to delete funneling. I heard that that's happening during this patch to a large degree. On top of that, I would still want to maybe take a little bit of support power away, and that way you can look to buff up the ADs a little bit off that and still have kind of like a net even gain in the bot lane. I think that would help out a lot in terms of being able to make crit ADs feel better to play that aren't Kai'Sa and Xayah. Or I guess Kai'Sa doesn't build crit, so just Xayah. And lastly, I'd like to get a couple champions nerfed. I think champions like Talon, Zoe, Mundo. It's hard for me to say after that. Let's just start with those three, and potentially, and then potentially you might want to look at some of the junglers. But those are the things off the top that I would like to see. Anyways, let's get started. Welcome to patch notes. Over the last few patches, the game has seen pretty hefty changes to the jungle, mid lane, marksman, and Aatrox. That's funny. For the next, it's 3 roles and Aatrox, which symbolizes top lane. God bless you, Shinshin. For the next few patches, we'll be dialing back and doing some smaller scope changes. Good. First, you'll notice 2 new sections of the last patch: simple buffs and simple nerfs. For the most part, that's pretty self-explanatory, designed on making a champion stronger or weaker, not really altering their playstyle at all meaningful. We're also following up with the Aatrox rework, looking to reduce some of the overbearing lane presence and give them more to do in late game team fights. Oh shit, yeah, nerf that champion too. Completely forgot. Cool, so let's get started. Bam, Aatrox, best champion in the game. This champ needs to be nerfed. He's playable in like both solo lanes at a top tier level. He's literally unbeatable in lane and causes enough pressure to essentially run with the game. Your team fight presence isn't that great, but you can pretty much infinitely frontline because you'll always be ahead of the other team. And you'll always have pressure on your lane, and right now, pressure is king. If you have pressure, you win the game, pretty much. So I need to get this champion nerfed. The first thing I think of when I think of Aatrox is his overwhelming 20% lifesteal on his E. I would like to see that get tuned down to stuff like, I don't know, 20% only to champions and maybe half that to minions. I think would help out a lot in being able to curb Aatrox's stupidly strong laning phase. So let's see what they did. Control 5 now unfurls his banner wings. Cool, great. Health decreased by 30. All right, cool. Base stat nerfs, that's okay. Base damage decreased by 10 to 10. Okay, looks like a nerf. Sweet spot damage to minions decreased. Okay, so you can't shove as much early. I like it. Good nerfs. Recharge rate goes from 24 to 8. You maxed this second. Wow, it's a late game buff by 4 seconds. That's really strong. On a champion, especially when you're looking to get like 20-30% CDR almost every game. So that's, or maybe even 40% CDR. So late game is going to become a lot better with multiple E's. And World Ender, bonus attack damage goes up. Q cast is now frozen while reviving. Oh, that's really good. There used to be the biggest problem about playing with his ulti is it used to ulti and Q once and die, and then your Q would time out, and then you would not have your Q up for when you rezzed. You'd just be a useless like guy who ran around. So but the fact that it freezes is so nice that you're able to, it's like a huge quality of life buff. Like, I would have given up a lot for this alone. What? Where are his nerfs? So you got increased in the AD. What the oh, the thing is, that's all they need to do is gut Aatrox's sustain a little bit. And I think that at that point you can tell how healthy or unhealthy his rework is. Because that's his biggest problem. He gets 20% like life steal. It's passive. 20% at level 1, level 2. And that's his biggest problem. Like, you can't take good trades against Aatrox because he heals up all the way through his wave, through like every creep wave. He heals up an insane amount. And so like, I would have been okay with nerfing that, buffing this, like to offset giving him this and then giving him a lot weaker laning phase and then giving him this would have felt great. I think that would have been absolutely phenomenal, really good. And then you can kind of see, okay, is Aatrox like just still too good? Like is his kit like problematic? Stuff like that. At the moment, I think he's still so overtuned. This isn't gonna matter. Like his sustain is still crazy. Sure, he's still broken. He's still the best champ in the game. And I think maybe there's an argument he's a top 3 champion instead of the best champ in the game. But nothing changes with these changes, which is really upsetting because it means I have to go through another patch where like this champion's permabanned. Fizz, W no longer deals bonus damage against prime targets. W base damage increase. W now grants on hit damage if empowered attack does not kill its target. Okay. The mark priming mechanic of Fizz W was unsatisfying. I'm an assassin player. I think it's completely reasonable. I didn't get the idea that it was unsatisfying. That's my personal opinion. I didn't think he needed to be changed, but maybe. Okay, let's keep going. As assassin, his role is to lay down damage quickly and get out, which made it feel like waiting particularly awkward. We're removing the priming mechanic and bringing back the old and on-hit buff on the active, but keeping the cooldown reset on kills. The new W still does damage over a long period of time, but more of that damage is front-loaded so Fizz players can quickly make like a trident and stab. Oh god, that was terrible. Next base attack does bonus damage. If it kills a unit, W's cooldown and mana costs are partially refunded. If it doesn't, his base subsequent attacks are in power for 5 seconds. Powered. Still attack thing. Still CDR. Mana cost is very high actually. If you look, it's cheap if you max it last. Okay. Cooldown reset to 1 and refunds 20 to. What? Oh, it refunds a lot of the mana, sure. It's the same thing. It's pretty much the same thing as before. Damage buff on non-kills. 10 to 30 with AP ratio. Passive bleed. I think I see a lot of people worried about Fizz being a tank Fizz being viable again. I don't think it'll happen. This isn't strong enough, nearly strong enough. Especially because a lot of the power is banked in later levels plus strong AP ratios. Obviously this champ is gonna get better from being able to assassinate people quicker. I think the biggest thing to take away from this is the idea of what the really good thing that happened in the Fizz rework, because I would say that yeah, the Fizz rework maybe not great. Like a lot of the assassin reworks, taking away the main point of bringing an assassin, kind of sucks to play the role. The biggest thing is that W helped last hit so much for Fizz players that overall Fizz laning became a lot more, I would say, generous. Like you're able to make mistakes, you don't have to prep the wave because you can kind of do everything with W resets, which is really, really nice. As someone who plays Fizz, and it's one of the biggest quality of life buffs for him for the rework. And I think that moving into having him do more additional burst damage is certainly not going to be bad. I do want to say that one of his strongest trading patterns right now is to Q into someone, W, and then immediately press W again to proc electrocute and E out. That's one of the most common trading patterns that Fizz has right now, and it's gonna be what seems like I don't necessarily think it's gonna be a little bit weaker because a lot of the damage is gonna be based on like on hit damage over time. I do think it's gonna be interesting because it will reward you for staying on a target more. How much do you lose here? You lose 20. Actually, wow, it's almost just a complete flat buff, especially because the cooldown drops to 3 seconds here. Yeah, outside of very, very minor damage, just seems like just a straight buff to the champion. Whew. Okay. I think in any assassin, if you're looking to just straight buff their damage, they're gonna be better. And if you ever play against the current version of Fizz, he's actually just incredibly hard. Like, he still does an incredibly high amount of damage. The biggest problem is, like, yeah, sure, his damage is delayed. He doesn't have great laning tools, but with this back in the game, being able to consistently stay on people when your cooldowns are down will help. Your damage will still be pretty high with both the bleed and the damage buff on non-kills. So yeah, he's gonna be a lot better. Will you see this champion? I still think he tends to lack a lot of lane pressure against a lot of champions, and right now laning pressure equates to like winning the game because it's so early game focused and you need to have pressure on your lane to be able to do anything or your team to do anything. However, maybe his better matchups, his good matchups got better. Stuff like you would counter pick Aurelion Sol with Fizz, you would be able to play against Talia with Fizz kind of. You can do stuff like into Syndra if she's seen play, into Victor. It's promising, and I don't think that Fizz should expect to be an S tier pick, but I think that this definitely makes him much more playable. It should be much more enjoyable to play, especially if you miss your ulti. I think it feels pretty miserable to play Fizz when the ulti misses. I think that right now, especially with this, it makes it a lot more enjoyable. Not enjoyable, but like palatable to miss your ulti and still have some sort of pressure without it. Cool. Jinx, base health increased, health growth decreased. She sucks. I don't know what else to say. Okay, so here's the problem with Jinx. One, she's fully dependent on other champions to help her out. She has no escapes. She doesn't have faster mobility. All she has is like longer range. Like, that's it. So when you're looking at stuff like Jhin, who can potentially move at like 1 billion miles per hour, Mach speed with rapid fire plus tier 3 boots. You look at Jinx, like, she's very, very vulnerable. That's the best way to describe this champion. Jinx is best in the meta where the game prolongs itself and you can wait for certain item spikes. But as the player base has gone better and the meta has shifted more toward like early pressure, all this kind of stuff, Jinx becomes more and more of a liability to play. Maybe you could still make comps around Jinx in a sense and like still like stack Jinx to infinity. However, notice all of her peers typically do better than Jinx does because Jinx requires such a large item investment. Jinx is famous for like, okay, I'm gonna get the Zeal item, I'm gonna get Last Whisper, and we're gonna team fight with Jinx and we're gonna win. But like, in all honesty, that's terrible in the current state of the game. You look at all the champions that are good right now, like every champ is good at like Rage Blade timing or like at the like or like rapid fire timing or you can go Bork timing pretty much. Like, you can't afford to wait for time. And maybe Jinx would be better in a different meta. But in the current meta, champions like Jinx, I think, don't really have that much of a place. So even though she got great buffs, like, this will help out a lot or a little bit, but this isn't gonna change her state in the game. Karma, base mana regen increase. Really? Growth decreased, base armor increased, Q splash increased. What? Empowered detonation damage decreased at early ranks. So Karma is struggling at most skill levels. At this point, a straight buff might push her up too high in organized play. We're upping her baseline spellcasting durability, pulling back someone for wave clear to keep her from becoming overbearing at highest levels of play. She lost 15 damage. I don't think she's that bad. I think any champion that can encourage your bot lane to push is a good champion, especially when she also has the utility of being able to support her own team. I think she may be a little bit out of the meta right now, but it's crazy to give a champion 6 like the base stat buffs they're giving her right now. humongous. Like Karma's already incredibly threatening early game, and now she like solidifies herself as like one of the best like levels like 1 to 4 champions in the game. And I think in any way, shape, or form, like she's gonna be somewhat useful here. And the people arguing that she has a bad win, I'm not gonna make an argument on win rate anymore. I think if you guys have watched my stream long enough, you'll understand that I think win rates don't really mean much. I think it's a general indicator of champion health. They are worse, in my opinion, for me than my eyeball test. Because champions like Ryze and Azir have historically had really, really low, LeBlanc, really low win rates because player skill is a big factor, you know? Anyways, I'm gonna keep moving on. I think that these are really large buffs for her. She's gonna be very strong early game, very, very strong late game, early game. And I think that the offset of her having weaker late game, it's to compensate, or weaker detonation damage to compensate, doesn't matter. Like the fact that they even buffed her splash damage is insane. I think that she is gonna be very strong. Cool. Sion, Q base damage and damage ratio increase at later ranks. Won't do anything. I don't think anyone built 80 on Sion. It's total 80, so it's nice. It's a small buff, but it won't push out the strongest top lane tank in the game right now, which is Mundo. And I think maybe it's maybe you can put it next to Poppy. Sion's still okay. Like I don't think Sion's still above average when it comes to tanks, but I think after a long string of nerfs, he's definitely seen a lot less play. Twitch, base health increased, health growth decreased. Twitch has problems similar to Jinx. However, I think that Twitch can actually snowball really, really hard. And the fact that Twitch can almost always get the positioning advantage when it comes to skirmishes and fights, and has unique, I would say, play patterns in terms of roaming in the mid game, allows Twitch to have more options than Jinx in most games. And so him getting a buff similar to Jinx, it's very similar to Jinx. It would be like I would never pick Jinx over Twitch because Twitch out carries Jinx late game anyways. It has more unique utility kind of in the early mid game. So this is actually very promising for Twitch. I'm interested to see if any crit marksman like Twitch will come back strong. Yet to be seen, and I know playing a bot lane to be able to say definitively that it will or won't. Oh, they're reposting the patch. I already read all these. These are irrelevant. Cool. Ahri. Oh god, thank god. Okay, Ahri sucks right now. Like Ahri, really bad. Part of the reason why is she struggles to do consistent damage. She has really high mana costs. I think that so like she can't really assassinate people. She struggles to be able to wave clear and be able to harass with efficient mana usage. And I think that this is a great buff. Holy shit. 0.4 second increase on level 1 charm, phenomenal. On top of that, being able to 15 mana off is great. Like this is huge though. This may be that, because I know some Ahri players tend to max E second. This may be a good time for you to be able to shift over that maxing to maybe a more consistent damage thing like W. This is actually really interesting. I'm not saying Ahri is going to be good. I think there's a good chance Ahri is still going to suck. However, I think she's going to be good enough to be somewhat playable, especially if you're good at the champion. So I'm really interested to see if this will help out a lot in her thing. But these are buffs that I like to see, because like she has a lot of problems with the E, and she has problems with in terms of like having consistent damage, and these fixes both of the problems almost, where you can now potentially level W second instead of E, and you can now have fish for more stuff with your level 1 E because it costs less mana. I like it. It's really good. Cassio, base damage increase, Q base damage increase late, or Q base damage increased. I haven't seen much Cassio recently. Generally, I never think the champion is very poor or very bad. I don't actually know why she fell off the meta super hard. I think that the thing about Cassio is she's really hard to play. She's very similar to attack moving when you're playing an AD carry when it comes to mid to late game and even early game, because you constantly have to reposition yourself between every E cast. Her skill ceiling is really high. So generally I find that like a lot of times when I see Cassio players, like the amount of effort they have to put in to get to do stuff is quite large. And I think that it's okay to have champions like that, but it makes it so it's hard for me to typically judge relative skill or relative strength of a champion. So in this situation, buffs for her, I think she's a little bit weak right now. Could use the buffs, no problem. And I don't think this will really change anything about her, because I think going to late game, Cassio has always been a really strong champion. Okay, Corki. I have not seen any of this champion since Lay's round nerfs, as well as the fact that Corki doesn't really have much pressure when it comes to lane. Right now, mid lane and it's all about pressure. You need to secure scuttles, you need and you need to be able to like roam with your jungler to secure the early game. And so if you're not able to shove consistently or not able to take control of the lane, you aren't valuable. And so Corki typically is a champion that tends to be able to take that advantage around either Sheen or Triforce timing. Usually it's Triforce, not Sheen. So it's so late in that regard that like by then your team is already in such a bad spot. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure you got nerfed before, so you're not seeing him much there anyway. So what happens here? The base damage got buffed by 40 at level 1. Wow. What the heck? They pretty much made his level 1 Galen gun twice as strong. Wait, that's nuts, right? It does 40 more damage and it does twice as much resistance reduction. Huh. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be able to push him back toward relevance, but this is definitely a very powerful buff for a champion. On top of being a good single target thing, this also helps in wave clear as well. And like I said, wave clear is very like important, like super important for a mid laner right now. And so it's good. It's really good. Yeah, very nice buffs. I don't think he'll shift up in priority that much. That's my initial thoughts. I think he's still going to be relatively meh, but these will help. And to reiterate, I think that buffing weaker champions is a very, very good play by Riot. Like, I think that every champion should be in a playable status, and you want champions from like S tier to C tier. I think Corki right now is kind of in the bottom tiers of the thing, so pushing him up so that like he's a little bit more viable, but without oppressing other champions is like, in my opinion, the best way to balance the game, because being able to have multiple viable champion picks at any time, really good. And you want to only be nerfing champions that tend to oppress a lot of the champion field. Stuff like Zoe, for instance. I would like to probably see nerfed because she's oppressive, extremely oppressive. Anyways, Elise, she sucks right now, so more buffs to her, the better. I think that they're slowly buffing AP junglers in the sense that they buff like AP jungle item, and they're giving her better health growth. Elise will probably make a comeback with like one small more buff. Nasa's passive life still increased early, 2%. This won't change anything. It's nice. Don't get me wrong, but it's a small nice. He's still gonna be problematic in the sense that like generally similar to Garen, he gets shoved in a lot. He's a scaling pick, and right now like I don't even necessarily know if you can if he can outscale champions like Mundo, for instance, where they're just unstoppable. Pantheon bonus damage, attack speed at 1 added, W base damage increased. Attack speed should help Pantheon jungle without pushing his top lane too much. Does Pantheon jungle really need buffs? Does Pantheon really need buffs? The attack speed actually helps out a ton, because the biggest thing about Pantheon, even when it comes to skirmishes and 1v1s, is his ability to get his passive up, because being able to block damage is huge when it comes to skirmishes and even in the jungle. So Pantheon will definitely be a lot better. His strength is going to be sick. Like when you buff someone like this, give them extra attack speed to jungle, it's going to be, it typically means that they're better by a significant amount, like a decent amount. So Pantheon jungle, it's a lot better. 8% more attack speed. It's pretty good. Wow. All right. It's going to be interesting. I don't think Pantheon will overtake the top tier meta picks like Kindred, but this will be very, very like, this will shorten the gap by a lot. Maybe Pantheon actually is strong enough to be able to maybe contest her now. Rek'Sai. Q and R damage increase. Okay, Rek'Sai is not very good right now. I typically see Rek'Sai as a champion that like punishes tanks. Like you're able to power farm, skirmish really well, and punish tanks. I would say when I say skirmish really well, skirmish above average. But really like power clear and like have unique gank routes, stuff like that. I think the current version of Rek'Sai can't power skirmish that. She can still power clear, but she can't skirmish as well as the current skirmishers. I think right now it's so hard to be good at skirmishing because it's a meta where as a jungler you have probably 4 of the top skirmishing junglers in like the history of the jungle meta. You have Talia, you have Trundle, you have Graves, you have Kindred. Any melee champion who cannot immediately gap close and consistently follow can never deal with the last 2 and maybe even the first one. And so like it's really hard to be able to play tanks like outside of like really strong like Gragas level tanks into the current meta, and it's really strong to be able to buff like slightly weaker skirmishing champions because those 4 are just so incredibly powerful. So Rek'Sai getting buffs, cool. I think that's nice, you know. I don't think they'll matter that much, but like I said, buffing weaker champions is definitely a good thing to do. Cool. Let's keep going. Silver Boomerang. Oh, wow. 2-second cooldown decrease on Silver Boomerang. And she tends to go Essence Reaver, right? This is actually a big buff. This is really nice. To me, it's similar to where Gragas got his W buff that allowed him to become S tier in like a patch or 2 ago. So this is going to be like, this is really nice. It pushes Sivir into like that ultimate wave clear champion. Like you are gonna wave clear non-stop and force pressure on the bot lane. Vel'Koz's Q damage ratio increased. Okay, so Vel'Koz's biggest problem is that his early game is not bad. His mid game is really strong. We're talking extremely powerful, and he falls off a lot when it comes into late game. And I think any buffs toward Vel'Koz's like mid to late game is going to be really nice for the champion. Stuff like this, really good. Won't make him OP. I like it. Good job, right? Vayne, W damage increase late game. Wow. 14%. Holy shit. You sure about that? The problem with Vayne is that Kai'Sa exists. Kai'Sa is essentially Vayne on steroids. Like, it spikes quicker than Vayne, has a better laning phase than Vayne, shoves in better than Vayne, can itemize like magic damage, can go defensive AP items. Like, it's just a better version of Vayne. And so, like, I think Vayne sucks, but kind of has to suck because, like, anytime when Vayne is meta, she tends to be like a very problem. Like the meta is really bad. I think Vayne should be a niche pick that you pick against stuff like tanky front lines without the ability to dive. So when you're playing against stuff like, for instance, Trundle Mundo, you want to be able to pick stuff like Vayne because Vayne can't get punished and Vayne disintegrates comps like that, just like puts them in the ground. Unfortunately, right now you pick Kai'Sa for every situation when they pick Vayne in. They're trying to make Vayne more valuable by buffing her. This seems like a lie, and honestly, it probably is. I can definitely see maxing W to be like the thing again with Bork Rush, and maybe Vayne sucked for a while. Just give her the buffs. I guess we'll see what happens. I think with the strength of the current ADs, it's hard for Vayne to be able to kind of ever see play. So maybe with this, at least she has a niche. Potentially. I say that very hesitantly. So sure, buff her. We'll see what this does. I'm okay to even experiment with this buff. What's the worst thing that can happen? 2% target max health buff means Vayne sees like maybe a little bit better play. Sure, let's see it. Vi, base attack speed increase, R cooldown decrease. Ooh. Well, one, this helps a lot when it comes to building attack speed items like Triforce. Oh shit, I didn't mean to click that. Like Triforce, which has been a very common build for Vi. So base attack speed going up means that attack speed items will impact Vi more. And she also has an attack speed steroid in her W. already. So base attack speed buffs actually matter for Vi a lot. On top of that, ulti cooldown by 20 seconds, sick. This Vi is like famous for ulti. Like you pick Vi because her ulti makes her reliably strong. And I really like these buffs. I think that she's a very weak champion right now, and buffing her like this, maybe now she can match Nocturne as like a power farming level 6 jungler that can impact the map, where I feel like she couldn't do that before. Cool, I like it. I'm down with it. We're good. These are great buffs for her. Victor, W cast range increased. Is this what Victor's problem was? Did people play Victor and like give feedback to Riot that the W cast range is the reason why the champion isn't very good? Because I don't necessarily know if that's the case. Don't get me wrong. I actually think that people. I remember someone telling me about this change, and they're like laughing it off. And I think that having a larger W cast range actually matters a lot when it comes to being able to space and like kind of zone off players from either hitting CS or entering certain fights. Like I think this buff actually helps a lot, especially when we're going to like the mid game, late game kind of stuff. And maybe, but I think that one of the Victor's biggest problems is his early game is so inconsistent, reaching his gold back timings to get his wave clear, being able to hit like his first and second item. He struggles in the sense that like he needs to hit 2-3 items to be very valuable. And I think that in a meta right now, like you can't afford to give up pressure and wait the time to scale up. I just think that he's born in the wrong meta, right? Like champions like Victor, similar to champions like AP Kog'Maw, Veigar, tend to want to scale and need a little bit of time to get going. And I think that that's like time you really don't have, to be honest, as a mid laner right now, with mid lane being so pressure reliant at the moment. So yeah, like I don't think his scaling damage is bad. Like I've seen Victor's do a ton of damage, right? I just think it takes too long to get there. I would like to entertain a buff toward that aspect as opposed to this. But I think that the meta will slow down over time. Generally, the way you should see League of Legends metas is that when preseason comes or when midseason comes, the games are super short. We're talking like slam, like 15-20 minute, just like you're just slapping the enemy team, like vice versa. If you watch any streamers games, you're gonna see that a lot of their games are super snowballing. And then what ends up happening, and you can even tell, Riot releases information where it's like the average game time for like a high Masters Challenger game is like 27 minutes and 25 minutes, and that's crazy. And as the changes start stabilizing the patches, as we go deeper into the season, the average game length increases because there's no hidden variables anymore. People kind of know what to expect. People aren't trying out as many new stuff, and as that game time stabilizes, like, and games become longer, people stop like being surprised by stuff or testing out new things. Champions that tend to do longer with game time might become better. I still think Victor probably could use another small buff. It'd be pretty nice. But I guess for now it's okay. Sure. Mundo. This champ's OP. This is what he got nerfed? Really? Dude, Mundo's he's literally the strongest tank in the game by like a lot. Like I would have been happy with like an E nerf, an E damage nerf, maybe like health scaling nerf, maybe like you take off some resist here and there, base resist, and you scale it up. I would have been okay with like anything, but like this is like really weird. Because I think that maybe you're losing 20% health costs with every last hit that you get with Q. Maybe it does stack up over time. It makes his laning phase a little bit worse. Maybe he becomes more exploitable. I think that's what they're betting on. I think again, as for good players, it's not going to be. Huh? Maybe it is a big deal. It goes from. I'll zoom in a little bit. It goes from what 5 to 20. That's a pretty big nerf. Maybe it's something to where like before I would never feel comfortable blocking cleavers for CS, except for maybe on a cannon. Maybe this is something where it's like, yeah, this significantly does impact his laning. And maybe that's where you nerf Mundo, because they're okay with Mundo becoming unstoppable, level 11 plus if he's even. But maybe they want Mundo to be more susceptible early levels. Maybe this is more impactful than I think. I think that it's possible that this is way more important than I expected. I'll take it there for now. I still expected more, but I think that this is going to be interesting. Recon, Q increased, late game, R cooldown increased. Okay. Wow, I'm surprised they even nerfed Q. They really think there was OP late game? I am not surprised they nerfed his ulti though. I think Recon ulti W initiation is way too consistent. It's the best initiation in the game. It's really hard to counterplay. And so me seeing nerfs on the cooldown of this, I'm not surprised at all. Me seeing nerfs on this, I'm a little bit surprised. That's kind of weird. Sejuani R stun duration decreased. Oh, I guess I just make my wrap out statements. Cool. I think Recon's still really strong. Whatever. I better see a Morgana nerf somewhere because I think that she's super problematic as a support and tends to be ultra problematic. Actually, I want to see a nerf onto her. Cool. Let's keep going. Sedge stun duration decreased. Decreased? Is Sedge OP right now? Why are you nerf? Is Sedge OP right now? I don't feel this way. I think that they haven't even been able to stabilize the patch long enough to be able to see that she's good. Like, she's really bad to the meta champions right now, both the meta skirmishers, and she is outperforming the jungle by Gragas at the moment as a tank. So I think that she's above average as a tank jungler, but generally tank junglers can't perform very well in the current meta. Maybe that it's a pre-nerf because once Funly disappears, they expect Sedge to be really strong. However, I'm surprised she's seen any nerf right now, and I think that usually they're a lot slower on being able to do this. Like preemptively nerfing Sedge before she becomes OP or like really strong is a surprising move by Riot. All right, cool. Q slow decreased early. Wow, the slow went from. So if you taunt them into a Q, the slow goes from 15% to 35. Oh, so he's not going to be nearly as strong as a support or as a top laner. That's a pretty big nerf early. Wow, especially for support. Swain, our explosion ratio decreased. Really? You thought the R explosion ratio was why this champ was good? I'm gonna tell you something. The R sucks, dude. The R, the big part why you'd use R is because it gives you health and does damage over time. Like you heal off of it. Like the explosion damage is like not the thing that getting the 5 stack, like that's not consistent enough. It's like, sure, it does damage, but the problem for Swain is like stuff like his passive, stuff like his maybe E cooldown. Like I would be happy seeing other variations of his nerf, but I think Swain right now already has. I don't think the problem is his ulti. I think they hit the wrong thing, similar to Aatrox. All right, let's go to Talon. W return damage decreased late. So they nerfed his damage by 40 late game on the reverse. This is completely useless. Well, this matters in matchups where you need to rush Hex Drinker. So in AP matchups against champions like Fizz, maybe Diana, Echo, and you can't go Hex Drinker rush in a 1v1. It matters because without Tiamat, you can't wave clear the lane. I think with Tiamat, you could still wave clear the lane, so this doesn't matter at all. And I think, yet again, this is like... Let me talk to you about why champions are like Talon and Wukong, who are just getting a nerf here, are seeing more play right now. The reasoning is because laning for mid lane has kind of regressed. I would say that there used to be that you used to be able to do multiple. You had multiple options when you're lane. You could shove the lane really quickly. You could freeze the lane. You could slow push the lane. You could potentially like you had like 3 options. You had like those 3 options, and now pretty much unless you can only freeze the lane to set up like a gank or set up a dive. But aside from that, all you do nonstop is you shove the lane, because shoving the lane means you have pressure for scuttles. Your jungler can function on invades. You can follow the jungler on invades, and so there's a lot of champions where if you could freeze on and punish their really bad laning phases 1 through 7. Talon and Wukong are 2 of the champions with lane phases that I think are terrible early game, but they're able to cheat that lane phase because in the current meta, like laning isn't like you don't have the option to go and freeze the lane as much as you could before. You used to be able to punish mid laners a lot, but now if you freeze and he goes off to roam, even if he misses all 6 CS and the XP, his roam is gonna force more pressure on your jungler and bot or top lane than you're gonna be able to get out mid lane. And so mid lane becomes like super uninteractive. And the fact that you can't punish weaker laning champions like these 2 are the reasons why these 2 are seeing nerfs like this, because in the current meta, they're pretty much unstoppable. So anyways, that's my kind of rant on Talon. I think whatever happens, this forces a reliability on the Tiamat option. Whereas before, when I played against certain matchups and I was ahead, I would opt for going Pen over Tiamat because I could still wave clear backline at level 7 or 9 if I was ahead of the item curve in the game, if I had the lead. Now I can't do that, which means I have to go Tiamat every single game. But it doesn't change anything about the strength of the champion. The champion's going to be slightly weaker, but he's still going to be big pick ban every single game, pretty much. And I think that they could have opted for other things to do. I saw Q range decreases. I think that's pretty good as a nerf, but I guess I'm okay for Talon being nerfed in any way, shape, or form. I just think that this isn't the correct way to nerf it. Wukong, base E damage decrease late game. Okay, well, this affects jungle Wukong more than laning Wukong, right? With laning Wukong maxing E a lot, or maxing Q a lot, and maybe it's a nerf. I think Wukong is surprisingly strong in the current meta, given how bursty he is. He's one of the best assassins in the game, and his counterplay, similar to Talon, doesn't very much exist. And so I can understand why he got strong, because like I said before, it's hard to punish champions like Wukong and Talon due to how lane interaction works right now, especially for mid lane. Sure, maybe he deserved a nerf. Zoe, W base damage decreased late, W damage ratio decreased. Good. Great. Zoe's problem is not her damage on her Q on a sleepy target. It's similar to old Ari in the sense that you could kill people without hitting your abilities. And I have a problem with that. There shouldn't be a situation where I get hit with 2 passive procs and a flash from a W active and I lose my whole health bar. And currently that's kind of how Zoe feels. I think she has a lot of too much hidden strength in her passive and her W that you cannot dodge. And that is a huge problem on the champion. I think if you nerf those, which this is one great step into nerfing that damage, that's how you make her a balanced champion. I like this a lot. Maybe she needs more than this, but I'm very happy with what I've gotten so far. Cool. Items. Jungle items. You have the most individual total gold in your team. Lane minions grant less gold. This is subverting a lot of normal lane. Oh, this is the funnel nerf. Okay. You have the most individual total gold in your gold. Lane minions will grant 10 less gold. This penalty is removed upon the completion of an enchantment or skirmisher saber or stalker's blade. I agree with Q. Me and Q talked about this, and this is a kind of unintuitive nerf. So I'm glad they're pursuing a cleaner solution. I think that this will be. This is just a band-aid fix. You know, if this nerfs funneling, I'm okay with that. I think that there is. They just couldn't find a clean fix, and even me, who has a lot of time to think about this topic, I don't know how to clean fix funneling. I think this is probably the best way to do it. I don't even know if the penalty is that large, seeing how it disappears when you're getting the full upgraded item at like 2k gold. So for a period of time before you get that, like, they could be a problem. Maybe it might not even stop funneling, to be honest. But I'm happy they're looking to address it. Okay. No, we already saw these as well. Oh, this is the doozy. Okay. Teleport cooldown has increased. I think we're at the point where people understand that laning and being able to stay in lane is worth a lot in this game. And being able to also have the utility of having defensive or flexible macro utility in TP is super good. So TP has been a problem, like, pretty problematic. Them nerfing it by 60 seconds, that's great. I think it especially, I still think people are going to take this, but I think that it should have a bigger downside. Like, forcing someone's teleport should feel like a big thing. And I think that right now it kind of does not. It's like, you're going to take TP back to lane, cool, and you're going to just have 6 minutes with no summoner. I think I'm very happy to see this nerf. I think that it's been coming for a long time. When AD started going teleport every game, you know that's been a problem. Conqueror. Okay, I talked about before how Conqueror is one of the reasons that kind of top lane, like, tanks get pushed out of the meta. And okay, cool, they decided they were going to nerf Conqueror, and what did they do? They nerfed 4 AD damage off at level 1. I think that is not how I would have approached Conqueror. I think maybe taking off like a lot of attack damage, more than this, or some of the percentage scaling damage to kind of force tanks back in the meta would have been nice. And instead I kind of get this really small, like, slight tap on the wrist. I'm really surprised Conqueror didn't get nerfed harder. I really expected later in the future to get a larger nerf, because this is pretty meh, I'll be honest. Ghost Portal now requires an active placement. Okay, your current trinket becomes a Ghost Portal, which may be used to place Ghost Portal. Oh, cool! Whenever you and your Ghost Portals anywhere in enemy territory, gain 5 AP. Oh, that's funny. 5 to 20. That means you can level 1 invade, throw down a Ghost Portal in like a random bush that hopefully they won't face check, and you can gain 5 more AP at level 1. That's not bad. And it gives you, it's interesting. I might give it a shot. We'll see how it works. Zombie ward no longer spawns for friendly wards that time out. Thank God. This needs to be like the out of the game a long time ago. Damaging a champion after destroying a ward inflicts bonus damage. What? It's 30 damage? I think there was a lot of power in replacing enemy wards with extra wards. I don't necessarily know if there needed to be offensive power added to this rune. Maybe this might increase the value of starting sweeper first, and being able to kind of pick on these wards for higher lane trades. And I think that, notice that it's very high level 1, like 30 at level 1 is insane. So let's say you're playing the new Karma and you start a sweep and you sweep away the ward to hit them with Scorch plus this. They're gonna feel it, like it's gonna be painful. And so that's pretty interesting. My initial thoughts are this wasn't needed in the game. I think there's already too much damage in the game. Having more damage is just even worse for the game. But I guess we'll see what works out. The cursor update. Adding a new in-game cursor. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really care about the cursor. I have to see this in game before I give my feedback on it. Failing to ban a champion no longer kicks you from champ select. This change was live during 8.13. Will default to no ban and champ select will keep on trucking. Oh, cool, nice. I really like this because sometimes I miss this. And that's everything. Okay. Dark Star Cho looks kind of sick. Hextech Poppy looks kind of sick. Okay. Overall, I would say the patch did a lot of good things. They did nerf a lot of the top tier picks. They nerfed, they buffed a lot of the weaker picks. They ended up nerfing teleport, nerfing conquer. They ended up buffing weak ADs. They nerfed, and a lot of it was just buffs to weaker champions like Ari, which I like a lot. And they ended up kind of wish they nerfed Aatrox. I would say generally it's a good patch, but I think that a lot of the ways they decided to change or nerf champions was they targeted the wrong things, the things that didn't really matter. However, I'm most excited about the fact that hopefully funneling is no longer as powerful, teleport is no longer as good. That alone makes this patch like, and Zoe is no longer as good. That alone makes this patch like somewhat palatable for me. But I really think that they maybe missed their mark on a couple things. All right, cool. Let's go to the Akali update. Oh wait, this is really zoomed in. You don't need to be this zoomed in. Okay, cool. So Akali, sick back, nice tattoo. The Rogue Assassin, the rework. Let me frame this right now in the sense that I had played this rework initially way back when, and it was cool. Certainty worked on it. I thought that the current version of Akali is very like, you just kind of push yourself in, and I think they could have done a lot with it. I think that generally the new Akali looks and feels very good. When Akali walked away from the Kenku order, she defined her fighting style beyond Shen's teachings. No longer one to cut down enemies based on upfront combat flinches. Employs hit and run tactics, shifting as she strikes, steps back into stealth, and strikes again. I really like how she functions as a champion. So her entire kit revolves around dealing damage with ability and being far away from them to activate her doing more damage. And that makes her play pattern very unique. I really like that. So what's this? Her passive. Damage a champion with an ability creates a ring around them. When the ring forms, it gains a burst of movement speed toward it. Once she crosses the ring, gains another burst of movement speed toward the enemy. Crossing the ring also empowers her Karma, which which increases the range and damage of her next attack. Oh, increases the range? Okay. Ooh, visually it looks great too. That looks to be about 250 range. Okay. Also restores that's a lot of range actually. It's really good. Okay, let's go to our Q. There's 5 kunai and narrow arcs, damaging enemies and slowing those at maximum range. Okay, so there's a slow indicator at the very edge. If cast with nearly full energy, it heals. So only heals if you're not spamming it. At rank 5, it deals extra damage to minions, so it helps wave clear at rank 5. There's a lot of unintuitive things or like things that aren't obvious unless you're reading the ability, right? So like her passive ends up giving her bonus movement speed towards it, bonus movement speed when she crosses it toward the champion, increases the range, and then restores a small amount of energy. And her Q gives heals at full rank, slows at the edge, and deals extra damage. Okay. Cool. Very simple ability, seems to activate a lot of what she wants to do, which is slow, so she's able to get in, activates her passive, and heals her. Cool. Twilight Shroud restores energy and creates a cloud. Oh, it doesn't cost energy and restores energy now, which slowly spreads to cover a ring shape. When in the smoke, Akali is obscured and has increased movement speed, while obscures Akali stealth. Although her position can be revealed, Akali herself can't be, meaning she can't be targeted by exposure abilities, including turrets. Can leave the smoke a few times to extend the duration by it. Oh, it encourages you to go in and out. By oh, this is so cool. Wow. This looks like what could be the most problematic balance thing about of her kit. I think the one thing that makes it so I'm not, it's not maybe not too worrisome, is that her position can't be revealed and it doesn't stop damage from hitting her. I'd have to see the cooldown on it, so I would know like how problematic it could possibly be. But initially I was like, this is gonna be OP, because I was thinking like, you know, Vlad W, Fizz E. But on second thought, like it's gonna be very, very strong. But it's, I have to see in game how important it's gonna be. 17 seconds rank 1, that's really long. Okay, let's keep going. Backflips and throws the shuriken forward, damaging and marking the first enemy hit. The shuriken also hit and mark the smoke from Shroud. This is so cool. Can activate shuriken to dash the mark target, damaging enemies she passes through. So cool. This ability with her passive makes the champion fun. Like the fact that you're able to get out of passive range, charge your passive, go back in, sick, super cool. The fact that you're also able to mark your shroud and go back toward the shroud, also sick. Like she has so many things that you're able to do with her that kind of increase her skill ceiling, and she's gonna be extremely fun to play. Akali dashes up to 2 times with a slight delay in between. First dash deals physical damage and briefly stuns, while second dash deals magic damage based on the missing health. Okay. Huh. Oh. And the way it works is the passive goes off on your initial cast location. So you can get your passive almost cleanly at the end if you walk out. Oh, that's a very interesting way to do it. Oh, that's a smart way to do it. Okay. So she can't really gap close that easily anymore, right? So it's easier for you to stop her, but it's harder. She's more disruptive when she gets in. I think one of the biggest things that I think about this champion at the moment is that the current iteration of Twilight Shroud is super annoying. Like, I get pissed on that iteration. So changing that iteration to this may actually be like easier for you to work with than the current iteration is. I'm gonna need to see like how long it extends, what the duration is, but I'm kind of interested in this champion. For me, it just all depends on how problematic is the Twilight Shroud. I think the rest of the kit is created very creatively and in a way that I'm like, wow, like I think Certainty did a great job with this rework. Super cool. Now the only problem is maybe the W is too OP and is huge, has huge problematic things in terms of playing around it. And I think that, you know what, even if it does, if it could probably be numbers tweaked to where it'd be easier to work around, or I would say like more balanced, right? And if they can find a happy medium, I'm very happy with the rework. I think it's definitely up there in the reworks that I'm just like our top tier, like Urgot for instance, or Warwick for instance. I think Warwick rework was super good, so I like her a lot. I think she's cool. Wow, they even slowed it down for you. Wow, the Yasuo sucks. He didn't block the E? Come on, dude. What is that? Oh, that's her passive. Oh. Or ulti. Yeah. Oh, dude, her splash art is insane now. Holy shit. All of her, I saw some of the splash art, they all look like you could put this stuff on your wallpaper, man. Like, she is. This one looks cool. She's humongous. She's literally a flame god. This is, I think, my favorite splash of her. Super sick. This one's okay. Pretty good. This one is... Why is this guy... Alright, I like this one. I like the detail in the background. It's good. Oh, Blood Moon is so good. Holy shit. Is this Nightwing? Is that what this is? Or Silverfang? But this is Silverfang, right? I think this is the same one as it is on live. And this is the same one that is on live. This is so... This was surprisingly good. It's pretty good. Yeah, but this one's great. I love this one. This is so cool. Anyways, I think I love how the new Akali is designed. If there is a balance problem with her W, which there's a high chance that there probably will be, I hope that they can nerf, like, adjust the numbers quick enough to where, like, she's still extremely fun to play while still having reasonable counterplay options. Cool. That kind of sums it up for my thoughts on the patch and the new Akali. Let's get into some games.